भगवते वासुदेवाय. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.
वासुदेवाय
ओम नमो
नारायणं
भगवते नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव
नरोत्तमं
देवीं
देवीं
सरस्वतीं
सरस्वतीं
व्यासं
व्यासं
ततो
ततो
उदीरये.
जयमुदीरये
नष्टप्रायेषु
नष्टप्रायेषु
भद्रेषु
भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत
नित्यं
सेवया
भागवत सेवया.
भगवती
भगवती
उत्तमस्ति
उत्तम श्लोके भक्ति devotee नैष्ठिकी.
नैष्ठिके
Hare Krishna. Today we continue Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2nd, Chapter 2nd, 23 and 24. योग ईश्वराणां गतिम् आहु अन्तः
योग ईश्वराणां गतिम् आहुः
बहिः त्रिलोक्या
बहिः त्रिलोक्या पवनान्तरात्मनां न कर्मभिस्तां गतिम् आप्नुवन्ति विद्यात् विद्यापयोगः समाधिभाजाम् विश्वानरं याति विहाय सा गतः सुषुम्नया ब्रह्मपथेन शोचिषा विदूतकल्कः थरेव दहत्तात् प्रयाति चक्रं नृपशैशुमारम् योगेश्वराणां गतिमाहुवन्त बहिः त्रिलोक्या पवनन्तरात्मनां न कर्मभीतां गतिमाप्नुवन्ति विद्यातपयोगसमाधिभाजाम् वैश्वानरं याति विहाय सा गतः सुषुम्नया ब्रह्मपथेन शोचिषा विद्युत्कल्कथ हरेव दत्तात् प्रयाति चक्रं नृपशैशुमारम्. Hare Krishna. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body as such by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, mystic power, and transcendental knowledge.
their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material world. The futile workers or the gross materialist can never move in such an unrestricted manner. O king, when such a mystic passes over the Milky Way by the illuminating Sushumna to reach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, he goes first to Veshwanar, the planet of the deity of fire, wherein he becomes completely cleansed of all contamination. And thereafter he still goes higher to the circle of Shishumar to relate with Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead, purport. The materialistic scientists endeavor to reach other planets by mechanical vehicle only a futile attempt. One can, however, reach heavenly planet by virtuous activities, but one can never expect to go beyond Svarg or Janaloka by such mechanical or materialistic activities, either gross or subtle. The transcendentalists who have nothing to do with the gross material body can move anywhere within or beyond the material world. Within the material world, they move in the planetary systems of Mahar, Jana and Tapa, Satya-loka. And behind the material worlds, they can move in the Vaikuṇṭhas as unrestricted spacemen. Nārada Muni is one of the examples of such spacemen, and Durvāsā Muni is one of such mystics. By the strength of devotional service, austerity, mystic powers, and transcendental knowledge, everyone can move like Narada or Durvāsā Muni. It is said that Durvāsā Muni traveled throughout the entirety of material space and part of spiritual space within 1 year only. The speed of the transcendentalist can never be attained by the gross or subtle materialist. The polar star of the universe and the circle thereof is called Shishumar circle, and there is the local residential planet of the personality of Godhead, Shirodaksha Vishnu, is situated before reaching there. The mystic passes over the Milky Way to reach Brahmaloka, and while going there, he first reaches Vaishwanar-loka, where the demigod control fire. On Vaishwanar-loka, the yogi becomes completely cleansed of all dirty sins acquired while in contact with the material world. The Milky Way in the sky is indicated herein as the way leading to Brahmaloka. the highest planet of the universe. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Swapadantika Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Tapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavancha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Dev Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitancha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhecha Krupa Sindhube Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Nama. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Uh, Here, uh, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto second chapter, second, the Lord in the art. We try to understand shloka number 23 and 24. Here in this shloka, the transcendentalists are concerned with the spiritual body. Here they describing about the materialistic and the transcendentalist, and how the transcendentalist reach and uh, by the strength of the devotional service, austerity, mystic thoughts, and transcendentalist knowledge, they uh, they they can able to travel throughout the entire material space and part of the spiritual. They're giving the two examples of the Nārada Muni and Durvāsā Muni. In 24 shlokas, they describe about the pole star of the universe, and uh, about the circle thereof is called Shishumar, and how cross the Shishumar planet, and after that uh, crossing the planet of the Garbhodaksha Vishnus, and after reaching ahead, crossing the Milky Way to Brahma-loka. Uh, they describing about this so points. Prabhuji will tell us is nicely in Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhya kripa sindhubhe evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo namah.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So generally, when we are a child and we see so many different activities happening, we also dream how good it would be if you could travel from one place to another simply. And even now, especially if we are in heavy traffic or there is flooding around, we feel how good it could be if we could move from one place to our destination place simply transmaterially. And this is exactly what we think, what we believe. We feel it is just a thought, it's a fantasy. But as repeatedly mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, what we think, what we will, what we want, what we feel, though it is the function of the mind is not acting independently. It is simply acting based on the experiences, some current, some old, and some even older. And whatever we find in the material world is just a reflection of the spiritual world. So when we feel that how good it would be if we could travel from one place to another, it is not something which is a fantasy, it is a fact. Yesterday we saw, and today we are seeing especially the examples given in the perfect, how there have been spacemen, and Naradji is an eternal space. What we see is only limitation of our material body. What is a fact is the unlimited potential, unlimited potency of our spiritual self and spiritual real. The transcendentalist, that is why we saw when they are meditating, when they're reaching the appropriate level, they're concerned only with the spiritual body. And if unfortunately at the time when they're living through the cerebral hole, they have even some material tinge, they end up getting caught in the material world only in the higher spiritual planets. But by the strength of their devotional service, austerities, the Ashtasiddhis, the transcendental knowledge, their movements are unrestricted within and beyond the material world. The fruity workers or the materialists, they can never move in such unrestricted manner. So, when it is said, what Shukdev Goswami ji is saying is appropriate, that when some mystic is passing over the Milky Way, which is actually illuminating Sushumna, he is able to move towards the Brahma-loka. And there, what he goes through is he passes over Vaishwanar. Now, Vaishwanar is planet of deity of fire. So when you are moving out of fire, you are completely cleansed. And that is why most of the times we see this proverb, tribulations by fire or gold getting glittered when kept in fire. Because fire has that potency of cleansing. So when he's passing through Vaishwanar, if there is even little contamination, that also is now washed off. And then he is able to go to the Shishumar, which is the higher circle, where he can relate to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So basically, what we are seeing is the movement and destination of the Transcendentalists. While the first loka is talking about unrestricted movement, daily we are limited. Scientists are trying so many efforts to reach to other planets. But then what they are doing is they are using mechanical means, and they have their own limits, and they ultimately turn futile. With pious activities, we can go beyond Svargaloka or Janaloka. Maybe there we can use some material methods, but not beyond that. What the real yogis do is, because they are detached from the gross material body, they can travel freely. That is what the freedom of transcendentalists is. So within the material world, they can go to Mahar-loka, Janaloka, Tapas-loka, Satya-loka. And beyond the material world, they can go to Vaikuṇṭhaloka. But again, not to the Golok Vrindavan. The entry to Golok Vrindavan is only for the devotees who have realized their eternal position of being servant of Lord Shri Krishna. Nārada Muni is a perfect example of spiritual spaceman. And Durvāsā Muni He could travel through material part, the spiritual part, and his speed was so fast. Within a year, he could do it. And what is the means of movement? It is achieved by bhakti, by tapasya, by yogic shakti, by adhyatmic knowledge, the transcendental knowledge. That is why materialists can never attain such speed or range. Materialists struggle to accept that Supreme Personality of Godhead is personal. They fear the idea of individuality after liberation, and hence they prefer impersonal merging, Brahman or voidism. The classes I was hearing Maharaj giving the stages of material consciousness. So, first is attachment to material life. Second is fear of spiritual personality. And third is the frustration based voidism. So, it is where the impersonalists get attached and remain. But there is a remedy for liberation. And that remedy is surrender to Lord Sri Krishna. And that too under a bona fide spiritual master. Practicing devotional service with discipline, the sadhana. And to attain this, we have the power of hearing, that is Shravana. In fact, it is mentioned repeatedly as we saw even in the first canto. How hearing of Bhagavatam awakens bhakti and destroys the three problems, that is Shuka, Moha, and Bhaya, lamentation, illusion, and fear. It's a spiritual contact. So hearing about Krishna is direct association with Krishna. This transcendental sound purifies instantly and begins the process of real societal peace. And that is why we need to reaffirm the goal of our devotional life. It is one, to re-establish our lost relationship with Krishna, and secondly, loving devotional service is the ultimate perfection. What we are also seeing is the destination of the yogi. Now, the path of the mistake, as we saw, was traveling through the Sushumna. Sushumna path is the Milky Way, right up to the Brahma-loka. And the first stop out there is Vaishvanar-loka.
Shishumar. First,
Sorry,
wait,
Shishumar.
Shishumar.
No, first is Vaishvanar, na Mataji, where you get
No,
purified,
that
the deity of fire,
Shishumar Chakra.
and then complete purification of sins occurs there. And then we reach the Shishumar Chakra. The Shishumar Chakra, which is the cosmic structure, which also includes the Durvāsā pole star. Shishumar Chakra is the place which is the abode of Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. And this is the place where the final connection is made with Lord Hari. So what we are seeing are few philosophical insights there also. That the path to the spiritual world is not mechanical, but depends on mercy, the yogic siddhis, and the divine grace. The mystic journey involves progressive purification, higher realization. Connection with the Lord comes after complete cleansing of the subtle body. So, what we are seeing is that transcendental knowledge and devotion, they're the only means to achieve real freedom, the spiritual travel, and perfection. So, material methods are inherently limited and they cannot take one to the spiritual realm. Hearing Srimad Bhagavatam with faith, with submission, that is something which connects the soul directly with Krishna and extinguishes illusion and fear and leads to pure love of God. And that is what is most important in a life. Krishna is very, very merciful. See, in fifth canto, a lot of details about this cosmology is explained. What is also interesting is Srila Prabhupada has been talking about it earlier. To understand the things which are complicated, one has to undergo tapasya. So what is important is to ask ourselves a question. Are we prioritizing ourselves to dominate the forces of nature? Or do we prioritize uncontaminating ourselves? Because what the scientists are trying to do is trying to violate the laws of God. And even if one does all pious things, one is still in the material cycle. And I don't know why that becomes difficult for people to understand this. We can never violate the conditions of nature. It is impossible. And this is exactly what is called ignorance. And that is why Prabhupada calls them mudha. They are fool that they are conditioned in every step and still they are thinking they are free. And this is called illusion. In Bhagavad Gita 3.27, Krishna uses such a wonderful example. Prakrute kriyamanani gunah karmani sarvasha ahankara vimodhatma kartahamiti manyate. Spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actually carried out by the three modes of material nature. The ignorant man forgets that Krishna actually is Rishikesh, the master of the senses of the material body. And why he is forgetting all this is because of long misuse of the senses and sense gratification. And so he is actually bewildered by the false ego, which makes him forget his eternal relationship with Krishna. And this is the root cause of all causes. We are forced to eat, to sleep, to pass stool, to pass urine, to get old, to get sick, to die. But still people think they are independent. We do not know how we are making blood, how the heart is beating without breaking down. Body is forcing us to do things that we may not know. But the fact is Krishna is controlling it all. The industrialists or the businessmen, they think they have achieved everything without government. And the government says that they cannot achieve anything without them being provided the infrastructure. So both are right and wrong. The actual controller, the maintainer, similarly is Krishna. The cause of all causes is Krishna. He's the one who is controlling and maintaining everything. Everything is coming from Krishna. So when we start understanding what we don't know, then we become knowledgeable. So that is what is all the study. This is the beginning point of spiritual knowledge. So when we start or long to use the senses in serving Krishna, we become free of false ego, which makes us remember the eternal relationship with Krishna. And Krishna is so merciful that he has appeared in front of us as Archa Vigraha as well. There is no difference between Krishna and the Archas in the temple. So we have to start serving them. That is why that D is very important, which is not only Krishna Prasadam, but also deity worship. So let's understand more about this tomorrow onwards. Thank you very much.